Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Home Tech Podcast. Jason Griffin here. Happy to have you with us. I am joined, as always, by my partner, Seth Johnson. Seth, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm good. I got my TV over in the corner unplugged, so we should be good.
Has the CIA hacked your TV?
I'm a little nervous, man. I'm a little nervous. You know, I'm reading all these headlines and thinking, somebody's watching me. But, you know, I've actually down here where I record, I've got a Sharp TV, so I think we're good. I read in one of these stories that this, at least the specific exploit that the recent WikiLeaks news uncovered, that the CIA was able to basically use smart TVs as spying devices. One of the interesting things that I read when I was reading the story is actually that specific exploit was limited to Samsung TVs from, I think, 2012 and 2013. So, you know, just a pretty small range there. But like, if they've got that one exploit, they've probably got others. So, you know, who knows what else is going on there.
Right. When I read this, it was like, oh, the CIA has done their job, and I don't really.
Yeah,
I don't know why this is news.
Yeah. I saw your comment. We were having some dialogue in the hub, our private Slack channel this week, and I got a good laugh out of your comment. It's like, well, yeah, they are spies. It's kind of their job. So I guess I'm with you. I would have my concerns as well about a spy agency that couldn't hack a consumer grade smart TV.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is kind of silly. I mean, it's all. I think most people were more concerned about the iOS and Android hacks that were kind of acknowledged here, and that they had left some security holes unreported to those, like to Google and Apple, that, you know, these things were out there. And I think that's kind of the root of the problem. Like when security issues happen, responsible parties generally report them to the developer so that they get fixed. And in this case, the CIA kind of left them open for years at a time. And that's not a big deal. Like, if we're like, oh yeah, this is the CIA, that they're a US agency, they're hacking smart TVs. But at the same time, you have to think, like, there are other very smart people out there in the world, and they're able to hack the TVs as well. So, you know, China, Russia, they could have hacked the TVs as well, and done something with, you know, with the TV audio. I have no idea. This sounds like it was developed for like a very specific mission, like maybe I
wonder if Obama hacked Trump's TV.
Oh boy. Well, I'm sure we will find out about 6:00 tomorrow morning if it's happened.
Don't worry, that'll be the extent of our political conversation here on Home Tech tonight. Let's jump right in. Actually, we've got we've got a number of news stories here. No guest for this episode. Just going to be you and me, Seth, kicking around a few news stories and general topics for the week. So look forward to that. But before we dive into it, just want to give a quick plug like we normally do and thank all of our patrons, supporters of the show. We really appreciate it. If you're interested in learning more about how you can support the show, best way to do that is head on over to HomeTech.fm/support. Again, that's HomeTech.fm/support. And that is where you can learn about our Patreon page, which is where you can support us financially for as little as $1 a month. And we've had quite a few people do that. We really appreciate it. And I want to quickly mention that we allude, you know, very often to our private Slack channel, the Hub, where we have some really great dialogue and really great participation from a lot of very smart people. And, you know, even at that $1 a month level, you get access to that private Slack channel, which I think is a pretty cool feature and well worth $1 a month to be in there and be part of that dialogue. So one more time, HomeTech.fm/support if you're interested in learning more.
Yep. And I will, you know, echo what you just said. We are very thankful for our supporters and patrons of the show. They've actually made this live show possible, just have really helped keep the show move along, and kind of like really helps us, you know, on a day-to-day. Like the Slack channel has been great recently. I mean, we've had a lot of posts from a number of people, both here in the States and abroad, about projects they're working on, and different sorts of things, questions that have come up. And man, it's just been a great resource as of recently.
Yeah.
So check it out, HomeTech.fm/support.
Very good. Well, let's jump right in here. First story we want to talk about actually did come from the Hub, at least as far as where I first saw it. Chris Gamble from Live Install over in the hub put it up. And HomeKit, Apple, has some new promotional materials out there, including, I believe, like about a 45-second to a minute-long promo video and a completely revamped HomeKit website or home website featuring, a lot of information about the initiative. And really nice looking. I mean, no surprise there. Apple does a great job putting together marketing materials, clearly, and so I would expect nothing less. But pretty cool to see what Apple is doing to drive the vision of the smart home forward. And I think these are great assets for anybody out there who may be trying to explain what the smart home really is all about and what it looks like potentially moving forward. This is a great little short video you could send to your mom or your in-laws or whoever it was that wasn't really getting it, that I think does a great job of just concisely encapsulating what the prospects are for not only HomeKit but just the connected home in general.
Right. And one of the links on there is Shop HomeKit devices, which man, there are a ton of devices that are supported within HomeKit right now. It's pretty impressive to see how, after a few short years, and it seems like a few short years, like it hasn't moved as fast as I think some people in the tech journalism world have wanted it to. But man, it's been a slow and steady ramp, and I think they've done a pretty good job of bringing on new device types and rolling them out when it's become either possible or reasonable to do so.
Right.
And we're still early along with these products. So I'm pretty impressed with what they've able to come out with. It's not like everybody and their brother is doing HomeKit. Like supposedly they're more secure and the CIA can't hack into them, but who knows? But that's been the major complaint I've heard, is like vendors are upset that they actually have to pay a little bit more for a chip to go into their product or to do some math or something like that to encrypt the communications between HomeKit and the device. And I don't know. I think that they put that in when was HomeKit? 3-4 years ago?
Yeah, I think closer to 3.
That was well before.
Yeah, it's been around a while.
It was well before this IoT stuff was going on. Like this is something they had to have planned in from the very, very beginning, that the communication would be secure, end-to-end encryption and all that stuff. It would had to have been from the very beginning a thought process that they had gone through. And man, they sure look smart for doing it at this point.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that if you're, I don't know if feeling vindicated is the right way to put it, but I know that early on when there was a lot of flack being thrown at Apple for moving really slow on HomeKit. I remember our Technology.fm fireside chat that we did not this past year, but even the year going back to the year before. You were talking about one of your favorite stories of the year was HomeKit, and this was a sort of a legendary showdown at this point between you and our good friend of the show, Richard Gunther, about where HomeKit was at, and I know really both sides of that argument were valid at the time, because Richard was voicing some just questions about the current state of it and sort of a sloppy rollout at the time. But really your premise was that the vision was right and it was on point. And I think we're not there yet, but I have to say, I agree with you. And as you're talking, I'm scrolling through this list of HomeKit products on the Apple website, and it's quietly rounded out. I mean, there's a lot of different options on here and a lot of different price points, and all this stuff is priced very competitively from what you might be used to if you shopped for a smart home 5 years ago. So really cool to see, and I'm just curious to know how you're feeling about, do you feel like we're seeing the real glimpse now of the power of HomeKit? Maybe it just took them a little bit longer to get there than people wanted.
I think we need to remember the power of default, right? This is on all iPhones, iPads by default. This is built in. Just like if you ask somebody what mail application they use on their iPhone, they'll probably look at you like, are you crazy? I only use the button that says mail right here. The Home app is on the home screen by default. And man, I don't want to say I like feel vindicated, but this is a major player working in the home automation space and doing major things. I mean, I kind of tweeted out or talked about on the hub like my experience a little bit with purchasing a random HomeKit device for my wife for a solution that man, if I had taken the integration route, would have costed me, as someone who can buy stuff at cost, like double or triple just to do, right? So yeah. I got one of those little what are they? iHomes network switch things. I almost bought a Wemo, but then I realized smart
that's plug. What it is.
Yeah, I almost bought a Wemo, but I realized it was $10 less to get the one that was actually HomeKit compatible. I plugged it in, did the setup within like 20 seconds, and went over to my wife and said, "Okay, it's on your phone. Here's how you get to it. Oh yeah, and you can yell at your phone. I'm not going to say it out loud because it'll turn on. But hey Siri, turn on this the hot
whatever you call it."
And it works. Like it worked instantly. She thought it was great. She like got this big giant grin on her face and like, "Oh, that's really cool. I can do that, anywhere." Of course you can do it anywhere. You can do it when you're driving to work if you forget about it. And Siri will verbally tell you, "Okay, that plug is off." And man, how have we not gotten there?
For like $40,
right?
$40,
yeah. End to end. I mean, I probably
$40 and really, really quick setup. And I'm with you. I mean, I had a similar experience incidentally with the same smart plug. I bought one of these to turn on and off a little lamp in our nursery because for our newborn son, not newborn anymore, about 7 months now, but just really inexpensive, very quick to set up, and so easy to use, like being able to, even when the phone is locked, swipe up and swipe over on the control center and turn it on and off. Just dead simple. And for, the spouse acceptance factor, that's a huge, huge deal. And my wife had the same reaction as yours. It was like, wow, this is actually really cool. And so again, just to have that for such a competitive price point and such ease of setup is really, really powerful.
Right. And now they're adding in cameras, they're adding in intercoms. It's going to, I mean, every year they've added some kind of other device type in, some that, they probably should have had initially, but cameras getting added in is very interesting. And since it is default, since it is the only way to get access to HomeKit is to go through the home app. Well, I shouldn't say that way. The only way to get HomeKit is to go through the default setup that Apple provides through HomeKit, through the HomeKit APIs. It's very powerful that you have, as a manufacturer, they have access to interfaces and displays that they wouldn't normally have access to on the device. And that's definitely a huge advantage. Like I'm thinking about the cameras, like you can get a nice little pop-up of the camera feed on your screen. They've got a nice little picture of that on the website. That's not something that you would normally get if you just had, like, say, a Nest camera that's not HomeKit compatible. It's not going to give you that little pop-up there that has, oh, this just happened at your house. There's the UPS guy there and he wants to talk to you. There it is right there. And it's only available for HomeKit compatible devices. So don't forget, as we move forward, how powerful being the default application on the device is. That's a very powerful place to be.
Right. It is a very powerful proposition, like you said, and really cool to see that that platform rounding out. I'm a fan of the vision as well, and so I think it's fun to see that taking shape. Like you said, slow and steady. Let's move on. There was a number of stories about another big player moving into the space, and that's Amazon. Of course, we talk all the time about Amazon and voice control, but these stories were a couple of different angles, actually. The one that I wanted to hit on first was the rumors of a new security camera coming out. And so these are actually, there's AFTVnews.com. It's Amazon Fire TV News. So this is a website dedicated really to Amazon, specifically kind of Amazon streaming video efforts. But apparently they've got little crawlers that hit Amazon servers periodically, and I don't know how exactly that works, but in any event, one of those crawlers pulled off an image off of a server of a new rumored Amazon indoor camera. It almost looks, I would say the most comparable thing I would compare it to, maybe like the Canary type of device, similar form factor. So same idea, built-in camera, microphones, presumably this sort of thing. I think it would be a nice addition to the Amazon line of products, a pretty logical addition as well. So kind of cool to see that. It is purely rumor. There wasn't a lot of meat to the story in terms of any pricing or release or anything like that. It really was just the image, but still pretty cool to see.
Right. And that's exactly what I was thinking of. The Canary cameras that they have. I'm actually sitting right here next to my Canary, the security device. I usually have it in my garage, but our infant monitor thing went out, so I had to move it into the nursery room to kind of sit there and be a temporary infant monitor until the new one came. So now I've got to reinstall it, and this thing is about the size of a Coke can, maybe a little bit bigger. And what I'm thinking, just by looking at it, I thought, why wouldn't Amazon just put a camera on the Echo, right? Like it would be perfect for that device. You could make an entire like home security system out of it, and it would fit within the form factor that like people already like. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud, but it would be really cool for them to do something like that.
Well, that was some of the commentary I read in a few of the articles is, how does this fit in with the Echo, and is there overlap and this sort of thing? So, we'll have to watch and see how that all plays out. And who knows, this may be a very early prototype vision type of image and nothing more. I kind of doubt it. I think there's probably something there coming, and it's just a matter of time and some of the details. So it'll be cool to see that. One of the other things that I read.
I wonder if
go ahead.
I wonder if Alexa is going to be built into this, right? I would think it would be,
assume
right?
so.
Like you would put a security camera in, and it would also serve as like an Alexa access point. That would be really cool.
Yeah. I'm sure it'll have built-in microphones. So at that point, there would be no reason for Amazon to not include that. So yeah, like I said, we'll just keep an eye on it. One of the other things we saw, or that I saw, was that Amazon is looking at potential devices that can do phone calls. So voice over internet protocol, VoIP, another very logical addition to the Echo line of products. It's basically, nothing that crazy. It's kind of a speakerphone at that point, but just to have that feature built in is another, one more arrow in their quiver, so to speak, of a function that people would arguably use pretty often. And I think given their vision and hardware design and the current functionality of the devices would make a lot of sense.
Now, I'm going to kind of go the opposite direction on this one just a little bit, because Amazon just came out with a Skype competitor, and the name of it is eluding me right now, but it's very much geared towards business. And I'm wondering if they don't develop like a little type device that you could, every conference room I've been in for the last 10 years has had that stupid Starfish phone on the desk that doesn't work.
The Polycom?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
It's horrible. No one likes it. Everyone hates it. It doesn't work. It's always shoved off in the corner. And yeah. So maybe they're going to make a new Starfish with little 2 seashells off on the side, and they'll make a new, like, tie it in with their new conferencing app. I really see that happening faster than it may be built into the Alexa side. Yeah,
that's interesting. One of the other areas of potential overlap that I was reading about is that these devices could presumably be used to do not just like what you would think of as a traditional phone call, but maybe intercom type of functionality. Not even potentially, yes, within your one house, but you could almost have an intercom functionality to your mom's house, across the country or whatever it was, and that's certainly technically possible very easily with voice over IP. What I thought was the wrinkle to that story, and I actually didn't realize this. We talked, I think, briefly about Nucleus, which is like an intercom type of product that's built on Alexa, and we won't go into that. You can just Google it, Nucleus, Amazon Intercom. It should come right up. What I didn't know is that Amazon apparently was a a big investor in Nucleus. So there's a business relationship there, and very apparent overlap, I guess, between what Echo could do as an intercom unit and what Nucleus is doing right now. So how does that all shake out is another wrinkle to this.
It does make sense that a little device like the Echo, which, could be used as like a microphone for, you could say like call somebody, and it would bypass having to use cell phones and phone plans and that kind of thing. You just call somebody, whoever's number you had set up, and you could just talk to them on speakerphone in your kitchen. That would be a cool use case, I think.
Well, speaking of Alexa, gosh, we're saying that word a lot. It's probably waking up everybody's Echo right now. Sorry about that. We'll call it moving forward. But good friend of the show we've had on a couple of times, Joey Koczynski over at One Vision, had a piece that we won't dive into in detail here, but I just thought was an interesting topic, given the fact that we're talking about it and thinking about it. And it was a piece, Alexa, sorry, I said it again. Bad habit.
It's built into the name, so it's really hard.
Yeah. Please don't steal my company's service revenue. Interesting thought piece about the possibilities of an Echo device essentially turning into like an in-home tech support assistant. So you could say something like, hey, my Apple TV is not working, and it'll maybe run you through some troubleshooting steps, send a soft reboot over to Apple TV, whatever it is. And I thought that was a really, I hadn't really thought of it that way before. And it is a very potential like natural extension of these in-home. We talk about them as voice control products, but really the magic is in the AI, in the artificial intelligence. So you've got all this intelligence in that convenient form factor, and I think it's a good thought exercise to imagine what that could translate to in terms of in-home tech support.
And of course, I'm going to go cynical. Like if you said, my Netflix just stopped working on my Apple TV, and Alexa may come back and say, maybe you need to buy a Fire TV.
I knew that's where you were going to go.
Would you like to add one to your cart?
Example. It might work better if you were using Fire TV.
Right.
One will be at your door in 5 minutes.
Right.
Delivered by a smart home consultant.
Oh, yeah. So that's another big story that's coming out of Amazon is these smart consultants are going out and meeting with people. And I know Mike Wolf recorded a full interview with one guy. Seemed like he knew what he was talking about. And Julie Jacobson actually scheduled one up and had 2 home consultants come out and visit with her with some pretty interesting results. I thought one of the most interesting things that happened is there was no sell to it. They were just coming out to chat about what Julie would like to do. They gave her a couple of ideas, but didn't try to sell anything.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of curious as well. I mean, I had read that about Amazon's new service, and that they're really, for whatever reason, I think there's probably some legal concerns or liability things, but at this time, they're really not, my understanding at least, is that they're not targeting installation. They're basically coming out to do a consultation. And I thought that Julie was probably on the right track. In her article, she alluded to the fact that this is probably sort of an information gathering exercise for Amazon. All of the conversations are probably getting fed back to, somebody or somewhere on a server, who knows, but I think they're probably getting a lot of valuable information from this, from real people who actually use the smart home. And I think there's probably a bigger play coming at some point given Amazon's interest in services and all of that. So that'll be really, I think, interesting to watch how that shakes out, because there's got to be a bigger play here, because the math just doesn't work. Like for 2 guys to come out to your house for 45 minutes and try to sell you like $100 camera or something, the math doesn't work. So I think there's got to be some sort of bigger play here for Amazon, and it's just a question of what exactly that is.
Yeah, I think if this was another company, like maybe Apple or Google, they would do the same thing, but they may do it through like other companies to go out and talk to people and try and figure out what the pain points are that they're having with their home, if they're interested in the smart home. Like this for Amazon is great, like product information. Like what are the pain points that our customers are going into when they're getting involved with a smart home, and how do we either develop products or services around those issues, where we can either learn how to sell the products that we offer, like Nest thermostats and Fire TVs, better on our website, or maybe we develop a product. I'm saying we as Amazon, we develop a product that fixes those issues and really helps out the customer in the long run. It's good customer research. Like, it's really an interesting way of going about it. And what I think is most interesting about it, it's not like you're getting a bunch of people to come and sit in a conference room and talk about, sit around the Starfish and talk about, how to, how they're, what pain points they have in their home. They're actually going to their home and sitting in front of whatever technology piece they're having a problem with, and learning from the customer what their pain points are.
Good point. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. I think there's no better setting to get a feel for that. And, I've been working in this smart home on the integrator installation side of the business for quite a while, and going into people's homes. I think every time I go into someone's home and have a conversation with them about what they're trying to do, I come away from it with at least one lesson, often more than that. And so I think, to me, that's the most likely explanation of what Amazon is up to here, but that remains to be seen. Let's move on here, Seth. We wanted to, some of these stories, Crestron on the lighting front, these stories started to surface last week, and we had talked about, did we want to dive into them? We had a pretty full plate, but we've seen some more developments out of Crestron all around lighting, really this week. And so we wanted to touch on it. They've got their new Zoom, and that's spelled ZUM, wireless lighting control solution. And as best as I can tell, this looks like maybe Crestron's answer to Lutron Caseta. So, Crestron's had a wireless lighting solution with their Infinite wireless solution. And so at first I was kind of wondering where this fit in. And I think, as best I can tell, it's an answer to Caseta. There's a bunch of videos out there. We'll maybe link to at least one or two of them in the website, and we can talk about some of the pros and cons about how they've approached this. But I think it's I don't know, kind of a cool looking product. I'm just still trying to figure out like where it fits. You know what I mean?
Right. It has a range of 150 feet. Only can do 32 devices off of a single controller. I guess that's their hub. And let's see.
There it is. I wasn't sure if that was going to come out tonight.
Communications hop from one device to the other, so it's some kind of mesh networking. A couple of things that they've done here. There's a like a load box, like a controller that will fit inside of a J box, I think, if I'm reading this right. There, which is more like you'd see that more in commercial than you would in residential. I don't know. This stuff looks pretty interesting, but I wish there was some pricing attached to it so we could figure out like where in the landscape this thing lies. Like, is it Caseta pricing or is it Raw 2 pricing? Where does this fit with within the realm of lighting control? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's where I'm stuck on it as well. I think that the videos make it pretty clear, and the messaging behind it make it pretty clear that they're really targeting like ease of setup, making this as simple as
videos told you that.
Well, yeah. Now that's what they're targeting. I know you have some thoughts on that. I'll let you jump in here.
Well, I mean, I'm going to give full credit to Chris Gamble on this. Like, he was posting these videos over and over in our hub channel, and just like one after another, just boom, 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 boom. I opened up one of them and started watching. Holy cow. Like, the first thing this poor guy says is, you can set these devices up in 3 easy steps. And as you watch the video, there are 3 easy steps, but they each have like 26, 27 steps each with variations.
Sub steps.
Yeah. So it's not, man, it's not as easy as they're claiming it to be. Like, it's, if you compare it to the HomeKit setup that we have with our little plug device, it's just, there's no way it's easy.
I don't know. I have to admit, I didn't watch in depth. I did watch a couple of them yesterday and preparing for the show. And I don't know. I didn't come away with that same, not to the level at least that you did of like, this is nowhere close to easy. I guess maybe I was looking at it through the lens of what setting up a Crestron lighting system might have meant before that. So I think it's a big improvement in terms of ease of setup from, opening up a lighting program on a laptop or whatever that is. But yeah, it does fit, I think, somewhere obviously in between. A setup like a HomeKit is very simple, but I don't know. I have to assume that this solution would scale up better. Crestron is obviously a company that's known for doing very large installations, and so I would just assume that at a bigger scale, this sort of setup would lend itself better to that installation. But again, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the details of this and where it really fits into the bigger picture of lighting control in the overall market, not just from traditional players like Lutron and Crestron, but even thinking about it at the low end, like HomeKit, smart switches that go in your wall, and this sort of thing. So, interesting looking product. I think it's just still some figuring out to do, like you said, and I think pricing will really help bring that to light.
Well, we already know that it's going to be $500 less than their competitors.
Well, that's true. I'll give you that.
So the joke is that last week they were talking about a $500 Lutron tax on integration with their products. So if you were running specific processors, the Series 3 processors with Crestron, and you wanted to use a third-party lighting control like Vantage or Lutron, which are extremely popular in these higher-end homes, you got to pay this $500 licensing fee. If you use Crestron products, hey, there's no licensing fee. We talked about John Clancy a couple of times, the VP of residential. He said, this all has to do with how much extra support we have to give these jobs that have Lutron and Vantage. I just don't buy that at all. I think that's disingenuous at best. And like, this is clearly sales related. First of all, to do this and then the next week come out with your own lighting control product, suspect. Second of all, like, if you have a product that is built on integration, maybe you should build the price of integration into the product itself. There are plenty of other companies out there making integrations with Lutron for percentages of the cost of Crestron systems. Like, we're talking lower numbers here. And if there's a big problem, look, I'm a programmer. Lutron's API and integration API is like one of the easiest in the world. It's been the same for 2 decades. Almost the same thing with Vantage. Like, it's very easy to program and use. This is clearly sales motivated, has nothing to do with engineering or tech support. And I think it's honestly, I just think it's disingenuous for them to put this forward as like something that they're doing. All in all, I don't think most Crestron dealers are going to care too much because they're going to use Crestron lighting anyway. But if you're in an area like mine where you are an integrator, you probably have the low voltage license, but you have nothing to do with the high voltage, and whatever gets spec'd in for the high voltage. Now, thanks to Crestron, they have made it harder for you to sell their product into those jobs. And I think that's just a boneheaded move, just a step back in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Well, I think you make a lot of valid points. I've only had a chance to meet John briefly, and he seems like a guy who gets it. And I think that, overall, I personally am happy to see Crestron continuing to push and innovate in the residential space. I think it only helps to have them there. But I do have to say, there was a letter that he sent out just a few days ago regarding this, what's jokingly being called the Lutron tax. And the letter starts out, we understand there are many questions regarding the recently announced lighting system activation key, so I would like to try and shine some more light on it. And then he goes on to say, rest assured this has to do with one thing and one thing only, providing end users with the best user experience. We feel strongly that this means an end-to-end Crestron solution. This solution has never been better nor easier to deliver. And then the rest of the letter really goes on to tout the virtues of using Crestron end-to-end for control, automation, and lighting. And so it's like, I read this thing and I was trying to find, waiting for the section where it was like trying to, I don't know, ease the sting or console their, I got to imagine there's a lot of Crestron dealers out there who don't. I would disagree with you slightly in terms of, you made a comment saying, Crestron dealers aren't going to care because they do all Crestron lighting. I don't necessarily believe that. I think there are probably a lot of Crestron dealers out there who, for one reason or another, use Lutron for lighting, and so I think this is going to affect them. And I think obviously Greg in the chat room is chiming in here, and I know Greg is a Crestron dealer, good friend of the show, and presumably he's saying doesn't do Lutron, so I'm assuming that means he does do Crestron, and it won't have as much of a bearing on him. But I think I agree with your point. The whole essence of Crestron is that it's a integration and automation platform, and so by definition that should mean that the price for support of third-party integrations is built into the hardware that you're buying. That's the nature of integration. So I agree with you. I think that this was at the very least a short-sighted move by Crestron, but I know there are reasonable minds that disagree on this, and that's just how any initiative like this that comes from a manufacturer is bound to cause disagreement in the industry. I come down on the side of the fence that it just wasn't a smart move, and the communication I think could have been handled better at the very least.
Yeah, and taking a step back, look at this as the big picture that we've been talking about, and what we're saying is the race to the top. Who cares? I mean, what is $500 on one of these projects if you've got to drop that in as a line item on a project with the lighting control system like Lutron or Vantage? Who's going to care? This isn't a small job that's going to $500 is a line item that's going to get called very much attention to. On these jobs, you're going to say, oh well, that's what it we have to pay that license to Crestron just to activate the system for us to communicate with Lutron and Vantage. I'm sorry, Mr. Customer, and that if they're comfortable with that, then they go with the product. But I don't think that particular number is going to cause much angst, especially on larger projects.
Yeah,
like that.
But I would even slightly.
I don't think it's going to sell any more Crestron systems either.
Yeah.
I don't see it's going to sell Crestron lighting at all. That's why I'm kind of baffled as. If this was 1990 and you were trying to sell powerful SAP platform for business executives, like that, this makes sense. But man, it's 2017. People think and react a lot differently to little items like that.
Yeah, I would even just take small issue though with kind of saying, well, all Crestron jobs are probably fairly large, and 500 is just a line item that's going to slip right through, because it's, first of all, not necessarily the case that they're all large, but ignoring that, a lot of times it's not even about the money. And I guess what I'm going to say really applies more to like the, I think the abruptness of the communication and where it came out. So I'll give you an example. We recently did a Crestron upgrade, a takeover job in a very nice home here in the Denver area, and bought her a new, the homeowner, a new processor. And this was not a huge job. I mean, compared to like a DIY HomeKit thing, yes, it was astronomical, but we're not talking about a $500,000 project here. And thankfully we bought the processor before March 1. So we got in under the cutoff, because part of what we're doing there is integrating with an existing Lutron lighting system. So the problem when something this abrupt happens, and I think it was too abrupt, there was not enough of a heads up, is that it's not like this is the type of client I could go back to and say, look, $500, and that's probably nothing to them. But ultimately it puts me in an uncomfortable position as an integrator, because that's just an awkward conversation.
And you're not going to look good for
they
that.
Just spent whatever it is. Yeah, it just puts mud on your face. So that I think was my biggest problem with it, was not enough heads up, because you got to think about it, the integrator who's speccing jobs now that may not go for another 3, 4, 6 months, whatever it is, and to have to go back to the well after getting the contract signed for something little like $500. It just, frankly, it sucks to have to do that, and your only other option is to absorb it yourself, which is also not ideal. So that was my biggest beef with it, was just the very abrupt nature of the announcement.
Good point. Yeah, if you come up with that, it's one of those things that's like, that would put a little tiny voice in the back of your client's head that says, this guy missed something. What else is he missing? And it's not your fault.
Right. How much more am I going to have to absorb?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, well, let's move on. We got one more general topic here we want to touch on, and that is Sonos, the new Playbase. Now, we talked about this product a little bit, and so we won't spend a ton of time on it. If you missed our episode where we did talk about it, or you haven't heard about it, I would compare it to a new type of playbar almost, but not designed to be wall-mounted. It's, as the name implies, it's a base that your TV can sit on top of, and this thing has been getting, I think, a decent amount of press. I don't know that it's been getting maybe the love that you and I expected it to get. I know there's some question about, well, was this really a product that the market needs? Personally, I think it's, again, speaking from the integrator perspective here, I don't know that I would sell a ton of them, but I think it's got its place. It would be a nice little add-on for, maybe you're selling a project where the client just wants a basic TV setup on top of a dresser and, cable box, factory remote type of thing. That's a nice little add-on sell that you could put in there and really boost the audio quality of the TV and get you, whole house audio functionality in that room. So I think it's got its place. I am very curious to see how it sells overall, especially when compared to the Playbar.
I personally, I think we talked about this a little bit last week on the rumor. I think this is going to sell more than the Playbar. I think there are more people who would need this or want this and go to the store and find it to be less intimidating than mounting a Playbar underneath their TV or mounting a Playbar in general. I mean, that's the sound bars are kind of, it takes a little bit of know-how to install them. And if you're not that kind of person, hey, I'm going to set this TV on my dresser, or I'm going to set this TV on this this little piece of furniture in my living room. I think that's the vast majority of people. I think one of the articles we were reading said 70% of TVs are not wall mounted. That's a huge market.
Yeah.
That the Playbar really, could compete in. The thing is, like, I want to say the Playbar was like 3.5 to 4 inches tall. This thing is 2 and just over 2.25 inches tall. So it could slip underneath most TVs, and you can do various things. Like Sanus is selling a mount, which I don't find very interesting. I don't think that's going to fit the market very well, but like this would fit right underneath the TV, and the TV gets set on it. At the end of the day, you get better sound. It's very easy to install and set up, just as easy as a Playbar. I think it's a win-win. I don't really see a problem with this product. I think it's going to be much more popular than the Playbar itself.
Yeah. So you alluded to the 70% number. So Sonos determined that 70% of TVs out there are not mounted to the wall, but they're on factory stands. I actually saw that number in what I thought was a very cool video, and I think we should include this in our show notes at HomeTech.fm/152. It's kind of the making of the Playbar video, and they talk about the intent of it and what the thought process was, and I think it's a cool video to go take a look at. Greg, again, in the chat room here is prodding me to mention the varying size holes. There's a lot been made of that. The engineering behind the little pin size holes they had to put all around this thing to get the sound and heat out of it. So kind of a funny little thing, but I think it's a good example of, you get a little bit of a glimpse inside of product design, which for somebody like me who's never worked in that world, I thought was kind of interesting. You mentioned the Sanus mount. This basically, to me, looks like it's designed to solve the one thing about the Playbase that's the biggest question in my mind, which is, is it big enough for the base of most TVs? Like, it's, I know there are some TVs that have the feet are way out by the edges of the TV. And so how does that work if the stand is, if the footprint of the stand is bigger than the overall surface area of the play base? What do you do? And it looks like the Sanus mount is designed to basically solve that. Funny enough, though, when I looked at the Sanus mount, the first thing that I thought of is that's actually a product that, while it's good for the play base, is actually solving, I think, a more common problem, at least right now. And that's, how many times have you had a client who's got maybe a TV that they were given, or an old TV that was wall mounted, and they no longer have the factory stand for it, but now they need a stand. And this thing you'll have to go look at a picture of it, but it could fit that bill nicely. So if you have an old TV that you're looking for a stand for, and I know that's not entirely uncommon, this is actually a pretty good product for that. It wasn't necessarily their target market when they developed it, but a good fit for that problem nonetheless.
Yep. I've had that conversation come up a number of times. It's like, oh, we have this old TV from my house up north. Can we install it? Sure. Where's the base? Oh, well, it came off the wall. I don't want to put it on the wall here. How much is the stand? And it turns out the stand is more than, buying the new TV,
buying a new,
the same size. So that's always been my experience with those particular mounts.
Yeah.
I guess there's not too much demand for that kind of thing.
Well, I think last thing
I got to go back to the holes.
Oh, go ahead.
I think what Greg is talking about, like, I'm just looking at it. They made 43,000 holes in the front of this thing. But this is a little bit of Apple engineering here. They have a curved piece of aluminum that they put over the front of this, or plastic or aluminum, something like that. And the holes are different sizes, because when you bend the aluminum, the hole is going to be a different. It's going to move the holes into different shapes. And they all look uniform at the final bend. So that's Apple did that on the old cheese grater Mac, which I thought was always one of those really cool things that they did. It looks like they've done the same thing in this case.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying that. I guess I didn't catch
it's a lot of holes.
The significance of it. Yeah, indeed. I think last thing I want to say about Sonos, and we'll close out the show here, is just mention an article on Wired, and this was another one that came to me, at least from the Hub first, is where I saw it. And it's again from Wired, and it's Sonos' quest to unite the smart home with sweet music. Now, I'm not going to dive into the article. I'd recommend just going and reading it, because I think I thought it was a very, very well written piece, and I think really encapsulates the challenge of a company like Sonos, who really pioneered a new category and is now faced with a huge amount of competition from lower priced devices like Chromecasts and Echoes. And where do they go from here? And how do they move forward and maintain relevance in a strong position in the connected home? And I thought it was a really a great read, just in the context of thinking about Sonos specifically, but also zooming out and thinking about the smart home industry in general, and particularly like the professional integrators and the CEDIA channel. Not a direct tie in there, but I thought it was just cool to think about some of the parallels there and look at. I feel like there is a revived energy at Sonos with the new CEO in there, and maybe a new direction, more embracing of integration, and that'll remain to be seen. But I thought it was a great article, and I just wanted to mention it because I think it's worth a read. Yeah,
definitely. I'm just kind of skimming through it. It's very well written, very well researched, and really, really smart insights into what Sonos, like you said, the challenges that Sonos is going to have moving forward. When with all this extra competition and smaller companies that get in and start doing this stuff, it's much easier for them to iterate and move quickly than it is for a company like Sonos that is well established. And it's kind of like one of those big ship analogies, right? Like the big ships, they just take a long time to turn sometimes. And Sonos is not really a big ship when you and I think about it, but it really is. Yeah. Like it hasn't been around as long as like a Russ Sound or a Crestron or a Control 4. But it's definitely one of those companies that's like, it's big now, and they're going to take a long time to do something, because they're not just like affecting a warehouse of people in San Francisco, they're going to be shutting down 3 or 4 offices globally because they made a mistake. Like this is a major company now.
Well, anyways, that's probably a good place to close out the episode. Once again, we just want to thank everybody who has supported the show through our patron page. One last time, that's HomeTech.fm/support. And also want to just mention quickly here, thank you so much for listening. And if you have any feedback or want to connect with us, a great way to do that is head on over to Twitter at HomeTech Podcast. So once again, at HomeTech Podcast, we'd love to hear from you over there. And thank you again so much for tuning in. Seth, had a great time chatting with you this week, and we'll look forward to reconnecting next week.
Sounds good. I'm going to go unplug my TVs and make sure no one's listening.
All right, man. Yep, you got it. Have a good one.
All right, talk to you next week.
All right, bye.